All right, we're officially recording. All right, so I would like to now at 12:08 call this meeting to order. And I would remind anyone that if you are not speaking, to mute your line, that avoid feedback. Sometimes the mic and the speaker compete with each other sometimes when you're on the computer and on the phone. So. All right, Susie, so I need to move to accept the minutes.
I make a motion.
Sorry, motion by Bobby.
Yep.
And can I get support?
Support.
And then, given that this is an electronic meeting, we'll go through a roll call vote. Cheryl Mitchell?
Present.
And approved? Approval of minutes? Bobby Levens? Bobby?
I was muted, sorry.
Approved? Yeah. Fred Prime?
Yeah. Yes.
Meyer? This is like talking to, anyway. I'm here approved, and Dan Verdebar. Dan Verdebar.
He's muted.
Dan, are you on mute?
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Sorry. I was trying to get video and I must have clicked off the sound.
Okay, so do you approve and accept the minutes from the meeting, Dan?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. We have 6 votes. All right. And I guess, did I skip the approval of the agenda? Do I need to do that? Susie?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, that was, sorry.
All right, so and then I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
Approved.
I'll second.
Second. Dan and Bobby, and then Cheryl? Pam Schumeyer?
Yes.
And Fred Prime?
Yes.
Bobby Levens?
Aye.
Dan Verdebar?
Aye.
Here. All right, we got through that one much better. Good job. All right, so we've approved the minutes. Now we need to move on to financial review. So I think in your packet is the documents. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them. Are there any questions or comments?
Well, I'm just going to make sure I draw all of your attention. So this is dated, usually we do them month by month, but Pam wanted to keep this, wanted to do it to the end of May so that we could see that we got our full captured amount shortly after the first of the month, which is why it's run, this report was run to the end of the month. Our total TIFA capture, our total capture was $366,232.45. So this is significantly more than we had originally projected for this year, and that is all due to Michigan First's development of the Mint. So thank you very much, Michigan First. I hope that this is a good bump that can help us help the rest of the district weather what comes next. So, but that's all I really wanted to highlight for you guys.
And what column am I looking at, Susie, to see that?
You are looking at the third column on the revenue and expenditure report.
Your camera's on.
And it says year-to-date balance 5/31/2020, and you'll see it's that top half, those lovely blue numbers. Do you see it?
Yep, that was nice that it's in blue.
Susie?
Yeah.
I also want to bring attention that I did clear out the allowance for doubtful debt, that they wanted to clear out the accounts receivable, others, and the allowance for doubtful debt. That was cleared out also in May.
Okay.
Any other questions around either the revenue and expenditure report dated 5/31/2020, or I'm assuming we're also covering the activity by journal. So if you have any questions for the details, so. So really the only big change was the 294.83, 843, so.
Right.
And is that, this is a little bit of my ignorance here, being the mortgage person that I am, but is that amount fluctuates, right, based on year to year?
The capture? Yeah.
I mean, I've looked at the history for the past while, and it seems it was high a long time ago, and then it dropped down. I mean, there's been big swings in it. So.
Yeah, there's and I'm certainly gaining my expertise, but so there's a base value that's set, and so as property values go up, generally the TIF capture goes up, right? Since it's all based on what the base value, the difference between the base value and the current value. So it will fluctuate from year to year. There is a calculation that we do annually to try and get us a rough estimate. And so, I would expect it to remain. I guess I can't say I expect it. I will keep my fingers crossed that it remains high for the next few years, but a lot of it has to do with, also has to do with what kind of investment are you seeing? So we have, for example, like I know the Happy's Pizza Plaza, they were approved at the last planning commission meeting to make some facade changes. So once that project's complete, I would expect the value of their property to go up a little bit. So then that will, hopefully that'll increase our capture a little bit. So, if the school was to
Susie,
be
that's not
redeveloped,
enough
that
to
would.
take advantage of the facade grant then? What are they doing exactly?
They've not expressed any interest in taking advantage of facade dollars. It's a total overhaul of the entire facade though, to really modernize it, change the building materials out, and just
Wow.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Are we telling them that there is the fund grant, because we've now spoken for those dollars with our Lathrup Village relief plan? Right?
He's been
The
informed
13,000?
many times of the different financial assistance mechanisms that are available to him in any of the projects that he may want to propose. So
Okay.
he hasn't asked for it, so that's up to him. But
Keep it for somebody else.
if somebody else wants to use those funds, by all means. But
going back to your original question, and perhaps Pam might want to weigh in, just as a general premise, as the property values increase, they're still capped the 5%, and there's also the amount of the Headley rollback that will impact values to a certain degree. But as long as properties are selling, so they become uncapped, and there's redevelopment, so I would think that the Jagged Fork would be a positive to the tax capture next year, and then the gas station whenever they finish their project, as well as the Happy's Pizza complex. So I think we're fortunate as a community that our DDA district is definitely in a growth pattern right now, at least.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, very exciting.
So boosted certainly by what we've done here, but just think what would happen if they did something with the school or the church, or kind of drive through that downtown development. Not only would it look better, it would be a lot more fun. Of course, more to care for and address, but so that maybe a discussion that we can have later in the meeting, but certainly. I think it's imperative now more than ever on us to make sure we're looking for every opportunity to act. Some of the things maybe most recently there's been some inaction waiting for Southfield Road or something, but I think there's a great opportunity to provide real value for the downtown development and to the business that are investing, such as Happy's. And, I don't know that we've ever had a discussion about the corner here where we're at the credit union, not that it needs anything, but certainly, it is, we should be trying to provide value for the credit union too, myself excluded, but it is, I think, exciting to me to look at the possibility, especially with the extra dollars. I think that's kind of cool. So, I think we just have to be cognizant that we have to earmark funds for the match on Southfield Road. We have some parking mitigation we've already talked about that we've essentially committed to that we need to define a little bit more, and then any other projects that we can include going forward. So any other questions around the financials as presented? Again, that's the motion. I will eventually need a motion to accept for May 2020 revenue expense, activity journal and report, and comparative balance sheet.
Well, that's a mouthful. I'll go ahead and make that motion if you care to repeat it.
So, so Mike, you taught me early on, if you're not going to convince them, confuse them. So hopefully I've done one of the other. So, all right. So we have a motion to accept the financials as presented by Bobby. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Pam, I think, was in there. And then, so I'll do the roll call vote. Cheryl Mitchell. Bobby Lovins.
Aye.
Fred Prime.
Yes.
Pam Schermeyer.
Yes.
Dan Saga, aye. Dan Verdebar.
Aye.
Great. Has anybody voting members joined? I don't believe so. So, all right. So we have 6 votes, and that still accepts the thing. So on to the aforementioned committee reports. Susie.
All right. So, I will say, so the biggest, so economic vitality, we'll start there because that's a good one to start with. So the committee met at the beginning of the month, following our special budget meeting and our budget amendments that we made earlier in April. And we began discussing what our COVID-19 business assistance program may look like. And we came up with some really good parameters, and I'm actually just going to go straight back to my notes so I can tell you what we talked about. Very broadly, we wanted to make sure that our whatever assistance program we put into place is easy and usable in the very near term and doesn't have the same level of hoops that, like the SBA and the, all their programs have. And even some of the, while the hoops may not be that great for the Oakland County business stabilization program, I mean, they still had some hoops. So we really wanted to make sure it was broad. Some of the parameters that we've come up with are, we want them to have a brick and mortar storefront. They should be in business for 2 years. We talked about it being only mom and pops, no chains or franchises, and that they should be in the district and have less than 10 employees. So I've drafted some program policy and guidelines for our program, and I need to circle back with the Economic Vitality Committee just to further refine those. We have had an extra bump in possibilities, if you will, through the Oakland County, the Main Street Oakland County has partnered with Patronicity on the nation's largest coordinated crowdfunding campaign. So I was on a call earlier with them. I think there's a total of 18 Oakland County main streets that are participating in this. Oakland County will match up to $4,000 in funds and we were lucky enough to have a donation from Michigan First of $4,000. So that guarantees our match from Oakland County. So thank you, Dan, and Michigan First. Oh my God, it's the week of
Terrific. Oh,
Yeah.
man, that's excellent.
Woo!
Dan,
So excited. It was like the best way to start a Monday, right? So, and I am happy to say that
A participant has joined the meeting.
I think it's Kelly. Sorry. I am happy to say that that donation, as well as a couple other, like Hazel Park got a $10,000 donation from somebody the other day from some builder. So, but all of these donations are helping to sway and make the case to the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation. They are interested in contributing to the overall pot of money to be matched. So the county has asked us for a little bit more information, like what have you allocated for your budget moving this year and moving forward. So hopefully that pot of money gets even bigger thanks to the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation. So stay tuned.
That's great. Hey, Kelly, have you joined? Kelly Garrett? Or maybe I should ask who joined? Who joined the call?
It is Kelly.
Oh, hey, Kelly.
Hey, Cal. So the long and short, so we have right now we've raised $4,600 of our goal of 6,000. So we have approximately another just under a month to continue raising that. And so I think you should have all received the email with the link to the Patroness and Eat campaign. Please share if you can, share money if you can, but almost more importantly, share amongst your friends so that friends, family, and neighbors, so that we can try and get as much support as possible for this program.
And Susie, for that match, we had to achieve the goal of 6,000 or achieve the at least 4,000 to get the match.
At least 4,000 to get the match. So we are right now we are guaranteed 8. If we get the rest of our match, then that'll give it, or well, just over 8. But if we get our goal, we'll get 10, and we can always change our goals.
Awesome.
So I'm super thrilled. And as like a side note to that, there is a match on Main Street program that MEDC just launched. I need to do a little bit more digging to see if that's an avenue that we want to, an additional avenue of funding that we want to pursue. We do get a bit of a leg up because we are an RRC community. So stay tuned on that one.
So can I ask, how would this money be distributed? I mean, and how much does each business get, or does it vary?
That is, that's part of what we need to circle back. I need to circle back with the Economic Vitality Committee. You know, the grants from Oakland County through their stabilization fund, that was, their recommended minimum was $2,500 to make it a truly meaningful grant. I don't know if we really have the wherewithal to do 25,000 or 2,500, sorry, for grants, but we did talk about doing mini grants. So in my mind, it's somewhere between 5,000 and 2,000, but those are some of those details that we really need to hammer out before we, you know, open the application process out. So.
When is the next DD meeting, Susie, then, to duke that out? Which will give us time to get the remaining $2,000 then.
I think it's probably scheduled for I think we have it scheduled for the 5th, but I'll resend the draft documents. I'd rather get some work, try and get some work done via email before the next EB committee. Gets a little dodgy around around these parts, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I think it's fair, there were some anonymous donations in there too, but Cheryl, I saw you gave some money too, so good job on that piece. I mean, I don't want to overshadow anything. There's a lot of good work that started that going and a lot of work went into it. We were happy to help, certainly. I at least now know my corporate visa is at least $4,000 on the limit, so I don't know what else we can do.
Share, just keep sharing it.
If I could ask a question just in terms of the process, and Susie can probably guess where I'm going with this one. So does this board wish to have the final approval of the grant parameters, or do you want to delegate that to the Economic Vitality Committee and just have them go forward with it and just inform you?
Within the mission statement that's stated for that funds, yeah. It's not just give it to whoever they want. I mean,
Right.
yeah. What do you guys think?
Well, I was under the impression you're punting it off to EV, Susie. Maybe I got that wrong.
Well, I mean, we had this discussion, right, in the EV committee. We're kind of split. Like, some of us think that we should just have the EV committee roll with it and just kind of present like as an update, or there's the alternative position of having the DDA approve the program guidelines, and then we can, you know.
We were gonna come up with the guidelines and have the full board approve it.
Well, that's the question. Do we want the EV committee to just come up with the guidelines and have the DDA board approve it? Or do we just want to have the DDA board say, EV committee, you come up with the program guidelines, and from this point forward, we're, you know, administer it as you develop and see fit. You know, just difference in approaches.
It would be hopeful to get the monies to the businesses as quickly as possible. So I guess in that vein, when is the next DDA meeting scheduled?
It wouldn't be scheduled until, I mean, at this point, we end up doing monthly meetings. So, I mean, that would put us at like June 19th. I mean, we still have some refinement to go on that particular program. So, I mean, I think.
Do you think that the committee level is more agile in terms of, you know, make decisions swifter and get the money out to the businesses faster?
For whatever it's worth, yes, I think it's an easier process through the committee, but I don't think my opinion really matters at this point for this part of the discussion.
I think it's more agile. I say punt it off to EV, and you have just the swiftness. Time is of the essence, and I think that we're doing the intention of what the board wants. We understand the goal here as an EV committee.
Yeah, and I would concur. I read the base or what program it's using, but the mission statement of why the funds and what they were for, and I was in agreement of that. And provided the EV committee acts in the spirit of that and with fairness, I don't have an issue giving relinquishing the guidelines and kind of administering those out. Report back certainly and let us know what's happening with who, and make sure to record what's happening. But yeah, I think that's fine. Pam, how do you feel about it? Pam Schumer?
Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, that sounds good. You know, so are the businesses coming to us, or are we going to them?
We will, to secure that. I mean, we're going to promote this. I will be sending out as much communication as possible to alert our businesses to a funding, you know, that we will have funds available to that for them to apply for. So, I've been telling them over the course of the last few weeks, like, we're working to try and find the best way to support you. So if you have ideas, let me know, but know that I am going to continuously, I'm going to be in contact with you guys at least once a week. So you know what's going on. So this will definitely come through there.
Oh, that's good.
Do we need a formal vote on that, or we just note the minutes that we delegated?
I think it just can be reflected in the minutes that there was a consensus to delegate that responsibility to the EV committee, but I just wanted it to be documented. So
good call, Cheryl.
and so I'll move on real quick to the promo committee. So we did have a meeting. We talked about, the big thing that we talked about was, possibly having a Zoom roundtable. And I floated that out to, the businesses a couple of times, to ask for their input, and I didn't get like any responses. I mean, I got one guy that said he would be interested in presenting.
What was this for, Susie? I missed that.
To do a business, sort of like a Zoom business roundtable, so our businesses could connect and
Sure.
I mean, that just fell flat.
To give the business members a forum to share both their feedback and what's happening and maybe learn from each other and help us promote kind of a consistent approach at the, this thing that nobody really knows how to handle. So that was the idea, right?
Yeah, and nobody was really going for it. We did talk about business, like welcome back kits, and that I got some responses about that. And since that was in the same email, I'm going to assume that they read it all. So welcome back kits are, that'll happen. But so right now we just need to focus on promoting the patronicity page and some other things. So we're going to keep at it. But
you just reached out in terms of the response. You emailed all the businesses, and then you got people to say no response at all, or like when the response that you got, did people, like, how many people actually gave you feedback? I mean, I'm just curious.
Less than five. Less than five, right? I mean, there's probably, I haven't counted that list of people, but I mean, it's a sizable business list. I mean, I think it's just about all of them. And yeah, I got maybe 5 responses, like,
150. I mean, we're saying it's 150 businesses roughly, right?
Yeah. So
that's bad.
Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of them, like in the responses that I get, it's hit or miss. Not everybody is responding. I'm not getting a lot of bounce. I've removed all the bounce backs. So, I mean, they're all valid email addresses, but I think a lot of them have just been, they're either still closed and not operating in any sort of capacity, or it's just, or I would assume, I also just overwhelmed, right? Like, I don't got time to read through all this. And I like I said, I got more responses about the welcome back kits. I mean, I think I probably heard from a dozen people about the welcome back kits, and like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I would love to have, and some of them had some, new ideas. Some of them just agreed with, what was in the initial email. So, but the Zoom table, that was a flat one. So try again. So.
Well, I think the spirit of the thought was really, what should we be doing at the DDA as it surrounds to them being closed, them getting funds. I think you provided some of that level of support and information for them anyhow, and like what's going on with Oakland County. So we certainly tried to get information out to them. This was really more in the spirit of, boy, maybe somebody doing something different that we can share on those calls. And, and I don't know that really caught on.
Yeah, I know I've gotten a bunch of your emails, and I think there's a lot of webinars that are happening out there, and I think, that could also be part of it, is webinar fatigue, right?
Yeah, people are overwhelmed, right?
I think a lot of them might have been just trying to get their PPP loan in and getting their money and fighting with their bank. And I mean, we heard Brian's not on the call, but I know Brian, between the first and second time, processed somewhere around 1,000 loans through Oxford Bank. We did a number here, a lot more the second time around than the first time around. But there were a lot of people just trying to hang on for their lives, and still are in a lot of cases, just trying to scratch out rent and all those other things. So.
Right. So.
Doesn't hurt to try.
try, and we'll keep trying. We'll keep trying. And I think that'll have to be something that, as we move forward and we start to reopen, the promotions committee is going to have to, we're going to have to start getting a little bit more creative on how we can do things and really support the businesses. So.
Should order personalized masks. I love the DDA. Hand them out or something.
Some communities are doing that. Honestly, some of them are. So the Main Street call I was on earlier this morning, some of them are, I think it's Rochester and Hazel Park are doing branded face masks. I mean, so it's something we could certainly do. And the Oakland County they are busting butt to get us money. To get all the DDA's money. They've been asked to submit something that would get another $2 to $5 million out to the DDA's. So every little bit counts.
Not to move us along too much here, but anything else from promotions committee?
No.
So where do the flowers come in? Is that part of the director's report, the flower pots and stuff? Are we going to settle on that today?
Well, we settled on, we did talk about the flower pots. So, and I reached out to Pam Schermeyer because she had a really good suggestion about, hey, let's make sure we shop. And I got overwhelmed. And so I asked Pam to help me come up with doing some research and making sure we choose the right ones. And so we are going to go with Earth Planter. I had to reach out to him to make sure I have an updated an accurate quote. It looks like it's going to actually be just under, it'll probably be close to 10, which is great. And I was waiting to touch base with our DPW guy this morning to make sure that we had the forklift capabilities to accept our delivery. So I need to go do one final thing for the light poles, but I hope to get that ordered early next week.
Susie, as part of that effort, are the repairs to the broken banners part of that, or is that completely separate? We still have the 13 broken pieces of equipment. Can we spearhead that and throw that into the mix?
That number does not include the broken brackets. Let me sift through, because we talked about that back in like February, I think it was, and then we all promptly got shut down. So let me,
$100 for that we just said to go ahead and fix it.
Yeah. I know I followed up with my guy, but
that? I thought so, Fred.
Yeah, that was.
You guys had made a motion to get those banners fixed, and I think it was just a matter. I think it was bad timing, is because we talked about it, and I know I followed up with my guy about it, and then everybody got shut down. So I'll touch base with him again.
Perfect.
What about the actual purchasing of the flowers and the planting medium and such? How is that going to work?
Hold on. Well, hold on. I'm writing at the same time. Banners, deliver. PW. I have been kind of holding off on ordering any of that because I just didn't know I just didn't know how it all was going to happen, right? That's another logistical detail I just need to get to. I imagine it will be an adventure to Home Depot with one of our DPW guys and say, hey, let's buy bags of dirt and let's get going. I would gladly take a volunteer. Pam, I am looking straight at you.
I volunteer.
I'd love to take a volunteer to help purchase and pick out stuff. So
one other thought I had is, I think four or five of the standing planters were intended for the gazebo.
Mm-hmm.
Is anybody going to be making use of the gazebo this year?
That's a good.
If there aren't any concerts, if there aren't any festivals,
Good question.
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I still walk my dog by it, but
Right.
it may
Right.
not be worth our while to dress up the gazebo, but what do you think?
That is the question of the day. The concerts and other activities look like they're going to be canceled, at least in terms of public gatherings. We're exploring with the artists on if they could perhaps do the performance, but just have it videotaped and have it available live online as opposed to an in-person concert. So those details haven't been firmed up yet.
I would argue that we've already budgeted some of that expense and we've already procured the material, the planners. I say we make it look as normal as possible out there because you do have residents and business owners that might want to go walk through the park safely and at a distance. Let's just stay the path and make it look as normal as possible for people, I would say.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. Help people's morale.
Yeah. And certainly our job at DDA is whatever we can do to enhance the downtown development area. I think we should stay the course and maybe even enhance it however we can. So.
All right.
But I'm busy. I can't go to Home Depot. My wife's at Schwartz's right now. Maybe she could pick something up.
Hey, she wants to volunteer and help plant, right? Because I know I said at the last meeting, we will have a planting party, socially acceptable planting party. So, or socially distant, however you want to look at it. But we'll have a planting party when that all gets here. So.
Good. All right. So I lost track a little bit. Are we in the director's report now?
Yep. So we're in the director's report. There's not a whole lot new that I'm gonna add. Because I talked about the patronicity campaign. Like I said, we're up to $4,600 that we've earned. So hip hip hooray for us. I just launched earlier this week the comprehensive virtual open house. So we were going to have an in-person open house to solicit feedback on the plan and what we've got going so far and get some ideas and further refine. So it's out, it's live, and it'll be live for most of the month. So please go out and take a few minutes. It's really neat. You can do, my favorite little part about it so far is there's like a word cloud. So we ask you to describe, what are things about the DDA? Describe the DDA or the city in, 2 or 3 words. And so it'll put the most prominent common words up there. So it's really interesting. Check it out. Please participate. Participate and serve. So I think that pretty much sums up director stuff.
Did we cover the TAP grant or did you want to?
TAP grant, I think we talked about it at the last meeting. So we did get, the city was awarded a $60,000 grant for to install wayfinding signage and 2 bike repair stations as part of our non-motorized transportation plan for our bike route. So the route itself doesn't carry through the DDA a whole lot, but we are one of the bike repair stations is going to be going in Municipal Park. And, there is a cost to for engineering and the engineering, the design and construction engineering costs. I knew there was a specific way to put it. So, so we've got that. We had a kickoff conversation midweek, and it looks like we've got just a little bit of final paperwork we need to do to get into MDOT, at least initially, before we can start going out for bid. And I think we're going to target a fall bid to coincide with MDOT's bidding process, and then with the spring 2021 start. So If we can get it allocated sooner, if they'll let the funds sooner, then we can go for that too. So, but it looks like right now we're targeting the spring for that. And that's a good move into our budget. So with our we kind of did a little backwards at our last meeting on April 21st. The language in our enabling act says that before the DDA can adopt our budget, it needs to be approved first by City Council, and then we can adopt it at a following meeting. So we did that. We adopted first and then forward. So we need to forward our draft or forward our final budget on to council for adoption at their Monday meeting and inclusion in their public hearing. There were a couple of modifications that I made following getting our final numbers for the year. Sorry, I'm trying to flip through my agenda and my packet all at once. So I included, like I said, in the TAP grant, there's a design and construction engineering cost. We are splitting that cost with the city. So that is now, that cost was $11,250. And that is being added to the street
Consulting.
planning and consulting. Yes, I couldn't remember. I put it in streetscaping or planning and consulting. So that'll be a one-time. That's a one-time addition for these for this year. And then we had talked in our budget amendments, to support our COVID business relief program. We had we'd reprogrammed our 2019-2020 facade dollars into that program, right? And we'd zeroed out the facade program moving forward. Even though it is a very underutilized program, the facade program, it is called out in our TIF plan as one of our defined programs, or one of our eligible program activities. And since we had such a healthy capture this year, I figured we might as well leave the $20,000 in there. If we use it, fabulous. If we don't, then we'll know that and we can readjust. I mean, we also had conversations about retooling that facade improvement program to begin with, to make it a little bit more user friendly. Maybe we end up increasing the amount. Maybe we expand it to allow for parking lot improvements. But I just wanted to keep that $20,000 in there. And we can. I would suggest we revisit that later in the year once we have a better understanding of what's happening this year.
Yeah.
So Susie, just to be clear on the expenditures in the budget, each item we have in our approved expenditure categories.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why we have the if I'm understanding, the planning and consulting is the COVID relief.
No, planning and consulting, that covers Giffords Webster, right?
What covers the COVID relief? I guess that's what I was trying.
The Main Street program line item is going to cover the COVID relief.
Got it.
Yeah, it's in the back of our packet.
Okay.
So just, I guess, to reset, what I heard Susie say is that we approved a budget ahead of us being able to approve it. We're going to So we're going to take a vote today at some point here to recommend that this be forwarded to council for approval, and then we come back and adopt the budget.
Yes.
To that effect? Okay. And then in this, the difference in what we looked at last time that we practiced approving was the 11,250 addition to our planning and consulting line item, which increased because of the bike path, our portion of that. And we also added back the 20 grand that we took out that we gave to the Main Street program. So, and then there were also the increases to salaries and wages, which we talked about last time. It looks like we upped the training and membership a little bit, and streetscape a little bit, which was to cover planners, I'm guessing, maybe.
Yeah, that was, the streetscaping this year that'll cover like the plant materials, some of the plant materials moving forward, and likely some, the watering costs. But the bulk of that streetscaping for 2021, the bulk of that cost is going to be for the bike repair station, because that's $6,700 thereabouts. So.
And then we talked about planning and consulting, and then a little bit in repairs and maintenance, and then the 20 grand back in. So yeah, so a little bit of difference there year over year, obviously. And so of the $293 we captured, we're looking at spending $226,970 per budget. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'm estimating we'll have about $24,000 of surplus between the projected capture and our projected expenditures. So we got a little wiggle room in there.
Well, I'm always in favor of delivering on what we said we were going to do in our TIF funds. So how do we, if we talk about this facade again, I'm all for doing that, but how do we spend the money? Because that's only really when it makes a difference. We have to have some effort behind it to make sure that it's going to get spent this year. I don't know how many years now. I've been on
What, Dan? Say that you have to have something. Can you speak up a little bit?
effort behind it that we promote the facade grant and make it not only easy to use, but let's use it in a way that enhances our area, and get it out there. So I don't know, do we have any, like we just talked about Happy's Pizza, is there an opportunity to enhance that at all when they invest money, or?
Parking mitigation is an ongoing issue.
Well, yeah, but
right.
That's not in here
though? No, parking mitigation isn't in this budget, not for this year. The city's engineer recommended that we wait at least until next year to start doing some of the side street parking that I had talked about in our capital improvements plan, since some of those are going to be eligible costs when Southfield Road ultimately gets redone. However, I believe that we're going to have to do some parking mitigation before Southfield Road gets redone, right? So, but I think that there is a way to revamp this whole facade improvement program to allow for some parking mitigation to be undertaken by a private property owner. I haven't had a chance to do nearly the kind of research that I would like to. I know Berkeley has, they have like a parking lot improvement program, which I would like to learn a little bit more about, because I think that might be a good avenue for us to consider for changing up the funding.
Can we put it in the budget as a holding, is there a holding tank, like a set aside, or is that a tool that we don't have? To say we might not do it until next year if that's what that guy is saying, but we can.
Well, I mean, we have our fund
tank or something.
I mean, we have our fund balance. I don't know if that's really the most appropriate way to
marking it enough.
do
exactly.
it.
That's too general for what Dan's saying.
I think if I understand it right, and I talked briefly with this to Susie and to Cheryl both, is that if we have a fund balance that both supports our obligation to Southfield Road for lighting mats when it comes through, and for this parking mitigation, and we still have a healthy balance beyond that, I think we certainly could, and I'm gonna throw out a term, I don't know, but earmark or set aside, or certainly note that out of the fund balance could be we always know that we could satisfy that requirement for both of those projects in the future, I would think.
Based on my estimates, I mean, and road commission hasn't given us any sort of, they haven't given us any sort of number of like how much, what would a match be? I mean, me pulling a number out of the sky, I say, like 300,000 at least sounds like a good match, but it's kind of, just to save it. I don't know if there's necessarily an official way to earmark it or not.
Well, certainly from a strategic direction initiatives, we could talk about it and make sure that, that everybody has the knowledge behind that. I wasn't certainly there, and I don't know any of the other, maybe Fred was or Cheryl was when the conversation had Logan County, but we know that certainly it's been passed along that is one of our objectives with that fund. So, all right, I think it's important to note that I just want to say that parking mitigation was not in this budget, but it is going to be a responsibility and play some part in the DDA going forward, and make sure everybody's aware of it now. So whatever course of action we need to take to cover that won't be out of this budget. Okay. So any other questions around that so we can, move to I'm sorry, Pam.
I don't know much about the facade improvement plan since I'm a newcomer to this board. What sort of things have we helped businesses with? And do they have to follow certain city parameters about, I don't know, signage or other things? Okay.
Yes. So the facade, pardon me, the facade improvement program has, it has been established but it's been in play for a while. It went on a brief hiatus at some point before I came on board. But so the facade enhancement program is really for the visible surfaces of a building, right? So we're talking about your building materials, windows, awnings, signage. You have to very broadly, and I can send you the guidelines if you'd like me to do that too. But obviously, if you have to go through site plan approval, you have to go through, you have to follow that process. It is a 50-50 match, so up to $10,000, and for eligible expenses. Like I said, it has to be elements that you see from. You have to be able to see these elements from the street. So, it's not going to pay for your HVAC, although it may pay for screening for your HVAC, your rooftop HVAC systems, right? So you can't see it. No interior work. It all has to be permitted, meet the code. So there's some pretty strict standards in there, and things that you have to follow and comply with. So the sign program seems to be a little bit more user-friendly, I guess. Very similar. You have to follow the city codes. You can't, it's got to be, your sign has to be approved. You have to follow all of the normal procedures. And that is also a reimbursement program. So,
Susie, might it be helpful to send out the packet for this facade and the sign grant applications, really to all the members, because we have some new faces and some people may not even recall the details, so it might be helpful just to be able to look at those. Yep. And Dan, I didn't know when might be an appropriate time to talk about some other opportunities for the DDA funding.
Yeah, so well, let's first, is there any questions as this looks like today from anyone? There was a couple of changes on here, but essentially we already went through this last week. I just want to make sure there wasn't any questions around that. Right?
Yeah, one point from me on, and this is back on the matching program for the state. if I'm understanding you correctly, you're ballparking 300,000, as a match for the Southfield Road improvement, which could be years down the line, right?
Right.
Okay. So just, I guess, from a reserve standpoint, I mean, are we saying that we can't set something aside for, have reserves specifically earmarked for that we just carry for, if it's 300,000, I mean, we started at 300,000 today and then just carry it until a decision is made?
I mean, I think that that's what we've been doing is just, I just don't know if there is from like from an accounting purpose or standpoint, if like we need to like somehow officially make that the earmark, or because we've been carrying this balance for the duration really of we've been building up this fund balance for the duration of the DDA's existence with the full intention of using whatever we need to for our balance. So I don't know if it needs to have like, I don't even know what it would be from that. Does that, I don't know if I'm
Yeah, I
answering.
think in my mind, I'm thinking that it gives us a for somebody that's looking, why are you carrying this balance? You say, well, we have this road plan and we're going to need the money set aside. It's obviously the planning or the implementation of this is not up to us, to an extent, but we have some responsibility. So that's why we're
Participant
carrying
has left the meeting.
balance, for as long as we have. And then if we have something outlined, I think, to the extent something like that comes up, we can justify it, or at least, we can justify that amount.
Sure. So we do have to, in our new annual reporting to the state, we do have to explain to them why we have any sort of fund balance and what it is specifically earmarked for. And I think, did I put, oh boy, I don't have all my files in front of me, but I'm pretty sure I included like at least a
Susie,
sentence.
that's my question. If you have to answer to the state on what it's earmarked for, why can't we dump some of that into parking mitigation? To say that that's one of our things.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying we can't.
Yeah, I just don't know if it needs to be, I'm not an accountant. I don't know if there's like a special tag we need to put on it and say, that we can't touch.
That's
You know what
thing
I'm
for
saying?
Pam. Right, I do.
But I think I put in our annual report, to go back to Fred's point about like, hey, this is why we have the balance. Like I'd like to start putting in my annual report to you saying, hey, like these are what we've generally got, like, ballpark $300,000 for Southfield Road, and then, for these activities, and spell it out a little bit more, because we do need to make sure that we're very clear with that to the state. Does that help answer, Fred? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that does. That does. I just want to, I mean, because we're carrying it and we should be able to justify it.
Right.
So, okay.
At some point, if South Hill Road doesn't happen, somebody's gonna forget we even earmarked the money for it. And, and pretty soon we got a Ferris wheel in the park, so. Okay, so, can I get, oh, no, that's right. All right, so Cheryl, why don't you just bring it up? I mean, you tell me Cheryl presented an idea, I think, to Kelly and to Pam Ratchert and to Susie, and brought I was circled into it yesterday around a potential idea for sharing some expenses. So I'll tip it over to Cheryl for that.
Okay. Well, as everybody has realized, thanks to the Michigan First Credit Union development, there's been a significant increase in the captured revenues within the DDA TIF district. So one of the things I was looking into was what are the opportunities for reimbursement to the city for some of the costs that are incurred just through our regular administration and operations that are inclusive of that area of our business corridors, and if it's even permitted. So, checking with the State Enabling Act and with contacts within the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the DDA can enter into agreements with taxing jurisdictions, so the city, and a portion of those captured revenues can be transferred through some mechanism to the city for their operations. So it can be an agreement and resolution, or it can be a budget amendment. It can be a reimbursement agreement. So, and to give you an idea of some of the costs that I'm referring to are the police, fire, and EMS services. The treasurer, to a certain extent, I think there's 5% covered, but I would venture to say that she spends a little bit more time than 5% of her time in supporting the DDA and TIF district, code enforcement and building official, and other just administrative costs. So in doing some research on it, I found a couple of communities, including Fenton and the city of Ann Arbor and Battle Creek to a certain degree. Battle Creek operates the DDA itself as opposed to a separate body. But there is a mechanism in which the DDA can essentially share some of the proceeds that they are capturing back with the city. And I don't know if you've been following what's been going on with from the state and federal government relative to municipal finance, but we're looking at most likely a significant reduction in our revenue sharing as well as our road funding. So our budget, the city's budget, is going to be impacted significantly. And the one area that's growing is in the TIF district, but the city does not receive any of those proceeds. So what I'm hoping for your consideration is that the DDA would be amenable to entering into an agreement that a certain percentage or dollar amount of your tax capture we could enter into an agreement with the city that those dollars would be reimbursed to the city.
So Cheryl, I know I've because we haven't had much of a chance to chit chat about this either. I know I saw the emails from Elizabeth from the state, and I would like to know just for my own knowledge so that because I don't want the DDA to be getting in trouble in terms at the state level in terms of how we're spending our money. I do not see anything in the current enabling legislation that allows that. Like I know you had sent some some language, yesterday, I don't know, this morning, I don't know, you sent it. Whatever day that was. With
5.1664, section 14, paragraph 4.
Yeah, so that doesn't exist. That section does not exist.
When I looked it up, well, it's in the DDA Act. So they sometimes change numbers, but it's in the DDA Act. It's also in our own TIF plan. So the same language exists. So the issue of it, and we can ask our attorney to look into it to make certain that we are consistent with appropriate processes and enabling legislation. But that,
because I think that's the earlier. I think that because they tweaked and recodified, the DDA and enabling legislation. So I believe that that section, I believe that's from the old DDA enabling legislation. So that I just want to double check because I don't want to, like I said, I don't want us to get into some sort of sticky situation where we're spending TIF dollars in a way that is not as it's intended.
And I think.
And then Susie, I have a question. Does the DDA have its own attorney as opposed to the city attorney to take a peek at that? Because it sounds like conflict of interest if you have a city attorney versus a DDA attorney.
We do not have our own DDA attorney. We typically use the city's attorney for
right
when we have when we need legal advice or assistance. I typically just email Scott and say, hey, Mr. Baker.
Before we go down that path, I'd like to have just and again, I have about, I want you guys to think I've prepped for hours on this. I have about 10 minutes of Cheryl's email, and I just glanced at some stuff last night in all of our books that we have here around what we're supposed to be doing with, in the spirit of how we should be spending our money. But help me understand a little bit, Cheryl, the thinking that this would be a responsibility of the DDA as it's structured today. And in the spirit of, we already kind of cover some things within the city and share costs with city, through salaries and through difference planning and all of the other areas. How are we laying on? And I'm very respectful of the strain that's going to be on all of our municipalities come summer and fall and winter, without all of these things that are getting funded, that's going to be hell to pay. There's no doubt. Money flying everywhere right now. So federally down to state level. So, but I just don't understand. I'm trying to make the bridge that because of that need, all of a sudden, and we have a couple $100,000 in here, the extra that we don't have, that becomes the responsibility of our downtown development authority. That's the bridge I'm trying to cross. Outside of whether we can find some legal language that says we potentially could do it, if I read the use of captured revenues, where in there does it say we should be considering to reimburse for the ongoing thing of police and fire and EMS, even out, even for a percentage of Southfield Road, which basically they drive down anyway. So,
and to a certain degree, some of that language exists just in terms of your plan when you're talking about Southfield Road. But I would also extend to this body that it should also include 11 Mile Road, because that's inclusive of the DDA district and is up for some restructuring in the next 2 years also. So I think this is an opportunity to look at a more expanded view of how those captured tax dollars can be beneficial to not only the district, but the entire community, because there's a relationship and partnership. Obviously, they should primarily be used for the enhancement of the development and redevelopment of the district. But there, on the other side, the residents should not be covering some of the costs that really are attributable to supporting the businesses in the district, with that being the police, fire, and EMS. Because I don't know if you know, but the police budget, the public safety budget for the city is over 50% of our budget.
Yeah, I saw the number. I didn't know it was what the total percentage was.
So just in terms of that alone, it would be reasonable that some of those costs are underwritten by those entities that are benefiting from those services.
Provided that we can justify it in the use case of what the DDA was capturing those funds for in the first place.
Right.
There's many different areas that you guys pull funding from, certainly. I get that, but to Susie's point, I'm just a volunteer. I have to have more information than what I'm looking at here, because now we already have a little bit of, conflict, but I would say at least one legal opinion. And then, listen, if there's a use case out there, somebody's, supplementing a budget somewhere that is very similar to our situation, and not like, I think about like Battle Creek, right? So their DDA is probably downtown Battle Creek, but the area they're supplementing for is the one out on the freeway that the police department has to cover separately. It's 2 miles from downtown that I'm sure is part of their DDA. Or maybe Ann Arbor's got a very defined downtown area where they want extra police patrols in that market. I'm not sure. Fenton might be the same scenario. They also have a outlet mall type thing, that we've all kind of seen out there about a mile south of town there. But regardless, first we want to make sure we can legally do it. And then we can start talking about, is it in a proprietive share? And if we decide that it is, then we got to have some kind of agreement in place. I think even you would agree there that there has to be, a shared use agreement on where does it end, where does it stop, what are they going to do? Because then we'd have to justify the amount that we're spending, certainly, if that's the case. So, and I want to open it up. I know everybody's just probably seeing this for the first time, but what do you guys think?
Yeah,
Well,
just looking at, and through our book here, about what the use of funds is, and it doesn't allow for, I mean, it doesn't say you can't, but what it does say it's allowed for is fairly specific, and what the categories are. Now, granted, this was from 2000 when the was set up, the plan adopted in 11, but I would think subsequent plans, if there are subsequent plans, it would include, operations for the city. And when this was enacted, this was, what we had a back in 99 or whatever this was, there was a vote for this to create the DDA, right? And the language in the ballot, proposal, I'm guessing, didn't include city operations, which is, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think we know that that wasn't the intention. And so I think where we are is, again, we can get an attorney, we can look at to determine if it's legal. But from what I'm seeing, at least in the material that we were given, it doesn't allow for city operations. The use of the capture for city operations, from the ballot language, I haven't seen it, but I'm just guessing it didn't include that either. But again, understanding where we are, I think what you're saying or what you're asking is that, hey, there are extra funds here, and it would be helpful to get some, offset, knowing that the city revenues are going to be cut. I mean, I think that's just the reality of it, and not necessarily because the city patrols, the police go up and down Southfield, which they would do anyway, or if we didn't have the DDA, they'd still do the same thing. So I think, I'm not saying that I'm against it. I just think that we certainly have to have an opinion on this, legal opinion to determine if this is something that we can do. Again, given what the ballot language was, and then, is this something that, I know we haven't gotten this far, but in your mind, that is, kind of fixed number? Is it a percentage of revenues? Is it a percentage of what we have available, after we budget our priorities? And then the nature of the agreement between the DDA and the city, or something like that. I mean, I know we haven't thought those out, but all of those things would certainly have to be vetted out. And in priority, I would think would be really determining if it's legal. And again, just from what I'm seeing in our material, I'm not seeing it, but I think that would.
Right. I would agree. I've always thought they were two separate things, left hand, right hand. I agree with what Fred's saying.
Well, to the degree that it does mix sometimes, like we do cover costs incurred by the city on DD behalf, whether it be planning or Parks and Rec, or other things that there is some commingled shared services there, maybe with or without agreement. So I don't want to be like, hey, we don't pay anything. We obviously do pay some stuff, but my worry is, where does it stop? At some point, that's where first we want to make sure we have the authority to do it, to Fred's point and maybe to Bobby's point. And then ultimately, if we do have the authority and it is in scope, then let's, to your point, Fred, how do we really determine what is the percentage, or is it by land mass? Is it by whereby maybe, there's nobody in those businesses at night, so maybe it's by how many people work in them. I don't know what kind of, but I see that as 3 or 4 moves down the road if we get to that point. I don't know, Cheryl, I don't want to poo-poo on everything, but for me, that's a pretty scary thing. I've never really been in this position before, and I want to make sure that we're not doing something we shouldn't be doing in those regards. So.
And I would hope that everybody would want to do their due diligence to make certain that whatever decision is made and directions taken, that it's is appropriate and in compliance with our own local policies and rules, as well as the state enabling that. So if I could suggest that at least we could designate some people to do some due diligence relative to that. I was going to ask the city attorney, obviously that won't be representing the DDA in this regards, but I think the information will be the same relative to the legality of it. And then the issue would become what if the DDA would be interested in moving forward with an agreement and what those terms might look like.
Sure.
Let me chime in then. I guess my initial reaction is that I would be open to Cheryl's suggestion because I'm a Lathrup resident and I just want what's best for my city. And we're a tiny little city and we don't have a big budget. So if we end up being in the position where, you know, we can't meet our expenses and you have to raise taxes, or, you know, because what are our alternatives, then yeah, I would be open to the idea of, you know, sharing. But, you know, there's a big difference between whether you're talking about sharing 2% or 50%. If the legal hurdles can be resolved, like I say, I would be at least open to the idea of sharing with the city at large.
Dan?
Yeah.
Question, what do you see as next steps? And do we have any more voting issues? I need to jump off the phone.
Yeah, so we need to approve this budget to be sent to, not approve the budget, but to vote to have it sent to council. Make it final and send to council. So,
okay, I'll make a motion that we send it to council.
All right, support.
All right, let me get back to my agenda. You're a little in front of me here. Okay. All right, so we have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Could I ask a quick question of Susie? So Susie, I apologize that I didn't get a chance to talk with you regarding this before. Had to send it out to the DDA board members. But the actual tax capture for this current year is 308,000, but you have a projected for the upcoming budget of 208, so 100,000 less than what was captured. What was the thinking behind that?
The thinking behind that is that we know conversations that I've been having with the Main Street Oakland County people, like the individually and as the big, you know, as our big manager group, we've all been cautioned about, we know that the tax revenues aren't going to be the same. Like, I mean, it's, you know, we're under similar uncertainties as communities as a whole, you know, not knowing what the property values, are they going to stay the same? Are they going to tank? Are they going to, I don't know, totally implode? So I just wanted to be, fiscally conservative on that estimate. Let's see, that's about 30% of what I chopped it down, about 30%. And I know, and where I was trying to do some research on my own about, you know, is there a projected percentage decrease that's out there? I know they've talked about.
Well, I know that we have a time crunch right now, so let me offer this. In looking at the 2008 downturn in the economy, it took about a 3-year lag before it was reflected in the property taxes. So even if everything tanked today, we probably wouldn't start seeing that till 2 years out. So my recommendation would be to look at a 10% reduction from the actual of the 308. And I think that number would be 277,356 for the projected revenues from the TIF capture.
So on page 12, Susie has it at 259.23, kind of in the historical graph, and then she double started, I'm guessing, because it's a estimate. But if you're correct in that 2010 was still a higher revenue year, and then 11 went down, 12 significantly down, 13 half of what it was in 10, 11, and then it languished around that 140 to 160 number until last year, and then started back up again. And I'm afraid that just based on raw numbers, I don't know where it's going to go either. I've already seen values take a small hit I'm hoping they come back a little bit this summer, but I'm afraid that with the money that we have to earmark, we've talked about, and some of the increased expenditures that we're already talking about, and then tack on that, whatever that number is for what the city is looking for sharing the help on, that we, that's one issue, is that we look at being over budget pretty quickly, and then then we're going to start cutting into what we should be doing because we have to support the police. So that's one concern. We can work that through, certainly, some of that numbers. Are we in agreement, Cheryl, that we'll come away here with a few people to work on it? I'd be happy to help on some of that. I know Susie should probably help on it. I know one of you guys can jump in. We can all work on it. And really look at it hard, because I think it's a question we're all going to have to answer here pretty quickly in all of our dealings, as what's coming next. I don't know that any of us knows if we go back to work on Monday or if it's going to be a month from Monday. So kind of working through that, and just keep the information flowing, and then we'll know that we're open to the discussion, and certainly look forward, provided that we get some assurance or relief that we have the ability to look at that shared agreement. So make sense for everyone?
Yes. But I guess my question is, so relative to the revenue projection, did you want to keep that same number, which would reflect a 30% reduction, or did you want to look at a different number?
I don't know, Susie, what do you think?
Yeah,
You're looking at the actual, this document, right? Is that one you're referring to?
And you're just getting this from, you're talking to the Main Street folks, and just kind of ballpark. Like there's no formula or no science behind this, right?
Well, there's a little bit of a science. It's not a huge science. I mean, I had like when there is I do have to do a capture. My initial capture calculation for this year was right around the 275 mark. So, I mean, that's less. I mean, what I've got there is still, obviously less than that number. I'll leave that one up to you guys. I really, because I don't know. I'd just rather be more cautious, but I mean, that's.
And you're concerned the optics of it is it's low and it's going to be less likely that we think we have the room to do it.
I think it is. I do think that projection is low, because I can't foresee something in the next year that's going to have a 30% decrease in what we're currently capturing. Now, relative to municipal revenues, because the revenue sharing is projected to go down 20%, I see it relative to municipal revenues. I don't see it relative to a DDA capture in Lathrup Village, maybe in some other communities, but not in Lathrup Village right now.
Yeah, we're not closing the bowling alley.
Right.
Hey, Kelly, nice to see you. All right, so
I apologize. I kind of triple booked myself, so.
No worries. Okay, so help me out, Cheryl. What do we have currently as a projection?
So looking at the document, I see 208, I don't have my glasses on, 480 as projected revenues for 2021 fiscal year. The actual for the current year as of May 31st is 308,000.
I've literally twisted myself into a knot. What page are you looking at?
I'm looking at I guess it's the budget document, so that memo. And that's
page 8 of that document.
Got it. Okay.
Whoa,
all right, just so level set, I'll show everyone on the camera here. It's this document right here. And
the very first line, this says TIF capture taxes.
208, yeah.
3P.
And we had 308 here. So you're thinking not a 30% decrease, but we should really be counting like a 10%. So yeah,
still on?
I mean, I don't have an issue saying 250 if you kind of want to split it in the middle. I think we're all grasping at straws because we're in unprecedented times right now. I don't know what's going to happen. To be honest, we have a second wave of COVID. We can sit around and paint all the grim pictures right now, but we really don't know. I mean, business is closed. It's hard to collect taxes.
Okay.
You know, there is a thing. So I'm fine with splitting the difference, but at the end of the day, we all should be ultra conservative in what we're doing and not spending to what we think is going to happen in both cigars. That would be my opinion.
I think that's a reasonable compromise, the 250.
I agree with that.
Okay,
So
you good?
change it to what?
Just go
So,
250. It's 308 today. You're saying 208. Let's just say 250 or 255 or something and just split it right down the middle and say, all right, we think we're going to take a hit. A couple businesses are going to close and we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, honestly, I don't know how restaurants are hanging on right now. I'm hoping they all come back. I'm praying they all come back, but they don't have extra money. They make $1 on selling a cup of coffee. You know, it's tough, really tough. So, okay, are you good with that?
Yes.
All right. So, are you still there, Bobby?
Yeah, I made a motion, but I.
You made a
don't know if I
motion.
should
Thank you.
have a new
You made a motion to forward these documents as presented to the city council for adoption and inclusion. And I need a second.
Sure.
Do I have a second?
Come on,
Well,
Fred.
I think
Fred
Pam
had
voted.
suggested- Fred had-
Seconded that. Or yeah.
Fred seconded.
You did? Okay.
All right. All right. So can I get a roll call, please? Kelly Garrett,
Yes.
Cheryl Mitchell,
And I'm sorry to interrupt the roll call, but this is with the amended amount.
this is
Yes, with the amended.
Yep.
Yep.
With the amended, yeah.
So Cheryl Mitchell,
Yes.
Bobby Levens,
I,
Fred Prime,
Yes.
Pam Schermeyer.
Was that a yes?
You're on mute. Sorry. You know sign language? Yeah. Can we take you off? Oh, you got it.
Yeah, okay, yes.
Okay, thank you, Pam. And Dan Verdebar. Dan Verdebar.
He's muted.
Dan Verdebar? Oh, I got him on mute, sorry.
Wait,
Dan,
am I there?
you are.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you,
good.
Dan, for your yes. And Dan Suggs says yes. So off to council we go.
All right, awesome. I will get, Cheryl, I'll make that adjustment and send it out to you today.
As amended. Thank
As
you.
amended, yep.
All right, any new business?
I've got nothing.
no.
Just a question, what about the annual cleanup? Have we canceled that?
Yeah, you know what? Thank you for bringing that up because I got lost. Right now, it's supposed to be Saturday, June 6th. How do you all feel about that? Do we still want to keep it? Do we want to?
Strongly suggest that we still do it only because I been walking more, and I have noticed that I guess Southfield is now the trash heap of South. I mean, the side of Southfield Road is a trash heap for Southfield traffic.
And all right, so because I did have that actually as a note somewhere on a different page, so no wonder I lost it. I was also thinking since we're gonna have to be, do it in a socially distant way, maybe we do. I was thinking over perhaps a cocktail that we do selfies on Southfield. And even though that sounds dirty, kind of take that dirty, like get your mind into the gutter and clean it up and take a picture of you cleaning up your stuff, right? So like I said, I may have had a cocktail or two when I came up with that, but I'm not entirely sure how we coordinate like a or if it's more of a hey while you're out, like I don't know. So I got ideas, but.
I'm thinking that I like where you were going. No, probably because of the cocktails, you were the only one that was in the gutter with the thought because I totally was with you.
Yes.
The clean.
Let's go down Southfield Road. I don't even know.
I don't know what road she was going down, but I'm thinking that maybe if we put strategically placed tables for signups or to give the bags out and the pickers, like one on the north side of City Hall, one on the south side, and maybe asking one of the business owners to use their parking lot that's south of 696, just spread it out all over where you can pick your stuff up.
That's a good idea.
But I think that would also get the businesses to be involved with it too.
Okay. Set up stations. All right.
We talked about before, and I don't want it to be overwhelming, but maybe at the same time, if we have the manpower to talk about the planting at the same time, cell phone cleanup and then a planning effort for the planters, so.
What time were you looking at you said June the 6th, right?
Yeah, June the 6th. And I'll have to go back and look exactly what time we did it last year. It was also on a Saturday. It was in the morning though. And I don't remember.
Put a half an hour on for me. So if it starts at 9, it starts at 8:30.
All right. Awesome. I can do that. But I think we started it. I want to say we started it at we went from 9 to noon. We didn't do the whole day.
No.
But set up stations around town.
All right, well, I say we do it.
That sounds reasonable.
I think of anything that we have that is going on outside, that we don't cancel those things.
Yeah, and we should definitely supply some masks of some sort. So in case somebody doesn't bring one or something, we should promote that.
Agreed.
To be responsible. If you guys can't track some down, I might be able to steal a box here somewhere. Donate.
We don't steal. Thank you.
Donate a box. Excuse me.
Say it on another call. Now our politicians on the call.
Ample supply.
What kind of things do we supply? Just trash bags, or is there anything else?
Usually we've gotten, so it's kind of goofy, right? Because technically the Lions Club has adopted Southfield Road. And I've been trying to get in touch with the lady at the road commission to say, we were taking this over. The Lions have all said that they're too old to do it. And, which is true. It's not just me. I swear I wouldn't say that. So, I've been trying to get in touch with the lady at the road commission because we can get bags from them as the adopter of the road, but we're not technically the adopter yet. So. But last year we provided bags, gloves. We talked about wanting to get, I can only ever think of what my kids call them, the reacher grabbers, the picker upper thingies. So we talked about getting those, and so I'd need to order something like that, but that's okay. No big deal. So.
Dan, I need to jump on another Zoom call. Do we have anything else we have to vote on?
I think we're good.
Just adjournment.
Any other new business real quick, anyone?
Susie, let me know if you need help with getting in contact with the lady from the road commission.
Okay, awesome. Will do. Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn then?
Move to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn. Do I need to roll call on that, Trey?
No.
Okay, good. Thanks, guys, for an hour and 33 minutes of your time. Have a great
Good
week.
meeting, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Hi, guys.
Okay, be safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Peace out. Bye.